Spoilers, I will not make waffles.
Got my hopes up.
You want waffles? Get your own damn waffles.
Lego my ego, mother.
I think the only reason that was funny is because it was Brian, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, man. So, hi, Doug.
Yes. Hi. That's Skytonic's comment. It's worse when you got nerve pain on top of muscle pain. That reminds me of something that happened to my mom years and years ago. This was back when I was in college. She was just in real bad pain in her shoulder and her arm. And it took the doctors a while to figure out it was nerve pain. Because I remember one of the times that she went, like Dad took her to the emergency room at one point because it hurt so bad. And I didn't know what it was yet. So they gave her like hard narcotics, which are great for muscle pain, but not for nerve pain. So like she went home, and then just after a couple of hours, now she was bombed out on narcotics and in extreme pain.
So now she's high and in pain. That sucks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, they were finally able to figure it out.
Damn it. How's your dad doing, by the way?
So this past, I guess it was a week ago, he had a follow-up with the orthopedic surgeon and they were going to make the decision about whether he could start putting weight on his broken leg and start like practicing for real with it, and they cleared him to do so. So
Hey.
so he's been doing that more. His physical therapy exercises have expanded to account for that, and so he's on his way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
Glad to
Mom
hear.
asked me a few days ago. She's like, "How is Mike's dad doing?" And I went, She said, "Do you really not know?" Mike doesn't tell us these things unless we ask. She's like, "Why
Yeah.
haven't you asked?" I'm like, "I don't ask these things unless I'm told to."
Chewy's like, Mike. You have to be more. Oh, Mike.
Never heard of him. Wrong number. Anyway, well, that's enough filling. So here we go. Ow, jam! Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mana Pool. This is episode 615 of the Mana Pool, and I am Chewy. Yay!
Yay.
There we go. I need to get a laugh track installed. Damn it!
Y'all seen one of the... Oh, I was just about to do that one. Boo. Dang it, Brian.
Well, I'm Brian. I'm the lead rambler, tangent master of the group, here to interrupt Mike at every opportunity. And I truly, honestly think that Dancing Mad is a better piece than One-Winged Angel. Every day.
What's Dancing Mad?
This is the boss battle, the final boss battle from Final Fantasy VI.
It's the whole suite from when
like
that
all
started.
the different versions of Kefka up until you get to the him as angelic Kefka.
I would have to listen to that again to actually be able to weigh in.
All right. Next.
Always that awkward
Mike.
pause while Mike figures out, wait, I'm supposed to talk.
Yeah, I'm supposed to talk. What am I supposed to say? I'm Mike. I'm the guy. And
You are! I want to be the guy too!
You can't. He is.
Oh, crap.
and I was very confused and thrown off by the music from the Jekt battle, but it was awesome.
That's 10, right?
That's 10.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really good, but the longer you listen to it, I feel like it. I don't know. After a while,
It's really good, but it comes out of absolute nowhere,
Yeah.
considering the rest of the game.
Huh.
I'm Dirk, the self-proclaimed greenest man alive and moral compass of the group. And I definitely agree that Dancing Mad is an amazing track. One Wing Angel is awesome. The one that I still enjoy is the boss battle from Final Fantasy IV.
Which one? The last one, or just the like normal boss battle?
Like the final boss battle.
Okay. You just said the boss battle, so I just wanted to be clear about which
final
one.
boss battle from Final
Okay.
Fantasy IV, where you fight, was it Zemnis?
Zeramus.
Zeramus. Yes.
I always said Zeramus. So, but I mispronounced everything.
Accurate.
So,
who did he turn into?
He was the.
It was Zemus, and he turned into.
Oh, it was Zemus and then Zeromus, not Zeromus and then something else. Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, this episode, in case you can't tell, we're going to be talking about music instead of magic. Now, for anyone that asks, yes, we are aware of Time Spiral Remastered. No, we don't really care.
I mean,
I'm
like if you
covered that at some point.
If
no, it was before we started the show, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. Well, never mind
then. Yeah, it was before we started the show. We didn't start the show until right before morning tide.
All I know is there were some elves involved.
That would be the thing you remember, yeah.
That would be it.
But yeah, it's like an entire set full of reprints, and then the time shifted sheet is modern cards in the old background. And honestly, I think the old background sucked. So none of that does anything for me.
The old white border is
it's god awful. Yeah,
it's impossible to read. The blue one, I really like the blue one still.
Sorry, let me rephrase. Compared to the new one, the old frame sucks.
Yeah.
So like everyone's like, look at this in the old frame. I'm like, that looks objectively worse than its original printing. So now, if it's cool for you, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like it, but there's not enough there for us to sink our tooths into for an episode. So we decided to just sort of ignore it.
And I was just gonna say, if you are hyped for it, all the more power to you. This is not here to be like, it sucks and you shouldn't like it. And I have very fond memories of Time Spiral. I for one don't feel like I need to necessarily revisit it. So yeah. So
and
we
since
came
it's
up with
gonna
something
have
else.
no impact on any format, because it's not standard legal, and I think all those cards are available in Modern already. I don't even know. Like, there's nothing for us to talk about, really, is what I'm getting at here.
And now we're spending time talking about how we're not going to talk about it.
Well, yeah. So, but that's because I don't want people to ask, are you guys ever going to talk? No, we're not.
That is true.
Also, Mike just resubbed.
Hey, good for him.
I mean, it doesn't have an impact on Commander other than availability of cards. Like, it's not like any of these cards are brand new to Commander. That's my point. It has no impact as far as new cards being introduced to anything ever.
Just that now it's possible to open them.
Yeah.
At some rate again, instead of 0.
Gothic resubbed earlier for 39 months, and I missed it. Thanks, buddy.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that's why we're not talking about it. Instead, we're going to talk about music, weirdly enough. Because Brian, out of nowhere, I think yesterday, was like, let's do an episode about music. And I went, huh.
Just about out of nowhere, because there was a discussion about, like, hey, okay, so we're going to record. So what's it going to be about? And with no lead in, I was like, yeah, let's do this.
And I thought it sounded neat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So really, again, because this is not strictly about Magic the Gathering. In fact, I'm sure it's music
not at all about Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. Magic is magic. Music, wow, those two words are too similar. Music is something that almost certainly everyone listening has had music impact their lives to varying degrees. Maybe very little, maybe a whole lot. Maybe person listening to us right now is a musician or has worked with a musician. Um, but it's something that I think when you talk about games, most games, aside from Pong, I don't think Pong had music.
No.
Have music, and that music, especially as the technology for graphics advances, so does the audio technology, has a way of influencing how you feel about it. So, yeah. So I want to start by just generally, what experiences have any of us had with music? And I guess since I brought up the topic, it's only fair for me to go first, and I'll say that I was in band from third grade, I think, through high school. And I was a trumpet player, and I was never terribly attached to my instrument the way some people are like, yeah, they really wanted to get better. But I enjoyed it enough, and I enjoyed the community, especially in high school. I mean, everybody, if you don't know the culture behind marching band, it's its own thing. Um,
It's
but
true.
so I've always enjoyed music ever since I was a kid playing Final Fantasy IV. I'm glad Dirk brought up that one. I have loved how immersive it was. I used to have an old school, I mean seriously, old school tape recorder deck, and after like my first or second time playing through Final Fantasy IV, I would just get to the parts with the songs I really liked and just sit down and record them and listen to them ad nauseum. And yes, the final boss music was definitely on there, but like I would just like play some of my favorite scenes from the game because the music really resonated with me. Spoiler alert for Final Fantasy VII, which has been out for how long now? Long time. I'm not talking about the remake. I'm
Long as
talking
they
about the original.
remade it.
Okay, guess what? Guess what? Aerith dies. But when you
What?
but when you have seen that scene and the materia drops from her hair and the minute it hits the platform, the first note of her theme sounds, I think for a lot of people they would have a response to that, and I had that as well.
God, I can hear that.
Yep.
Like as you're describing it, it was playing in my head. Oh,
There you go. And I think in some cases, I've played some games where the music itself has made the game, in my opinion, better. Anybody here ever play Breath of Fire or Breath of Fire 2?
nope.
I did not.
Okay.
I wanted to, but never got around to it.
They are, especially the second one, which was my first intro to the series.
Was that on GBA?
It was on Super Nintendo. It may have gotten a GBA port.
Okay.
But I played that game. It's funny, we were talking about this earlier about Blockbuster rentals. I never owned it, but I rented it a couple times from Blockbuster. And very early in the game, like super early, you get into a boss battle with a boss that turns out to be the second to last boss in the entire game, and it thrashes you. And that's kind of the whole point is like you're kind of a scared kid and you're going through a cave and there's a demon in the cave and it's like, oh, good, I'm going to eat you now. It's like, ah, but it has.
Real quick, there were 3 Fire Emblem games on the GBA.
Okay.
So
Yes,
this
one was originally on the Super Nintendo, but the thing loads up and it has this unique boss battle that's not found anywhere else in the game.
Breath of Fire, not Fire Emblem.
Yeah, Breath of Fire. Yeah, we got an answer in the chat too, which
Okay.
says that 1 and 2 were ported to GBA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm talking about Breath of Fire 2. So anyway, this music starts up and it's old school Super Nintendo. So the track is probably like 30 seconds long. And I found it later as an adult and I still really liked it. But it gets like the extended version is probably like 2 minutes and you're like, okay, I get it. But it made an impact on me. And like to this day, this is one of those games where the rest of the game I played through it, I enjoyed it. But the beginning of the game and then almost even the rest of the game building up to the part where you can actually fight that guy again are such that is the part of the game that really stuck with me, and that music was a huge part of that. So I think that there's been some games that have kind of more been on the edge for me, but the music really puts it over the top. And I still really enjoy music. On YouTube, I will just look up random tracks, especially tracks, not necessarily vocals don't kill a song for me, but especially instrumental songs. Um, I am a sucker I've always been a sucker for battle music, quite frankly, and anything that gets pumped up. And for that, some of the songs from anime are pretty good. Whether or not I know the series it's referring to, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I've enjoyed it.
By moonlight.
I'm not familiar with that one. I'm not, but I've always also really enjoyed classical music, and that's tough in my family because it puts Carrie to sleep. Like, this is not even a joke. We will be on long car rides, and I'll try to find a classical station because I don't always think about listening to it at home, and she falls asleep. Like, it's a thing. So I don't listen to it as often as I would like, but I've been talking for a while. That's kind of where I've come at from music. Why doesn't somebody else talk for a little bit?
All right. Well,
Okay.
that awkward silence means I should go first.
Yes.
I have realized. Okay, one, I watched a lot of Looney Tunes growing up, so I love classical music. There's a direct line to be drawn from how much Looney Tunes I watch to how much I love classical music these days.
I believe it.
Because Carl Stalling, who was the musical director for the Looney Tunes, used classical music constantly. Because why compose music for whatever is going on when a piece out there exists already and you can legally use it? Why the hell wouldn't you? And I always thought that was amazing. There's actually a thread I have open on Twitter that I haven't gone through yet. It popped up on the 1st of March. That's just a series of short clips from Looney Tunes and explaining what piece is being used there. And that makes me so happy.
And didn't you go to Wolf Trap to a concert that had to do with some of the music from Looney Tunes and stuff like that?
Yeah, I went to 2 concerts at the Wolf
We
Trap.
went to the video game one.
Yeah,
that
Dirk went with us. It was me and Lex and Squanto and Veronica and Dirk, and we saw Play with an exclamation point, which was an orchestra playing video game music while there was videos of said video games playing above them.
I remember you told us about that. Yeah.
That is the only concert I've ever been to where I cried.
Oh man, I think I did too. I seem to remember being
and
the person.
It wasn't on the one I thought it would. I thought because the Metal Gear was on it, and they were gonna play like the Metal Gear theme, the new one from 2, and I was like that. I mean, I loved that theme, but it was Kingdom Hearts is the one that got me because they didn't. I thought they would just play from Kingdom Hearts 1, but they played Sanctuary from 2 before 2 came out.
Really?
Yes.
And if I remember correctly,
I haven't heard this before, and I cried during it because that Sanctuary still makes me cry today.
Well, it's really beautiful.
It is.
If I remember correctly, the Kingdom Hearts music was what they played at the very end before intermission, and I immediately stood up and caused the beginning of a standing ovation, which I read later in a review of the article was somewhat unprecedented in a standing ovation before intermission. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
Well,
why would you not?
They didn't. If you didn't want me to clap, maybe you shouldn't have played an awesome song. So.
Right? But yeah, the second one that I went to I think that one was just me and Lex. We went back and they played cartoons on the screen, and the orchestra provided the orchestration for each cartoon, and it was also brilliant. But yeah, game music is a lot. Like, I have playlists on YouTube of like all 6 of the original Mega Man games, and Shovel Knight, and The Messenger, and like the Super Nintendo Sim City when I want to just chill while I'm working on something, and all kinds of video game soundtracks that are just on playlists on YouTube for me to listen to while I'm working. And recently I've been expanding my shower music playlist, and I have learned that my musical tastes are stuck in like high school and college.
Yeah.
I don't think that's terribly uncommon.
Yeah,
though.
that seems to be pretty normal. But like, it's not that I don't like music that has come before or since. It's just that's where my brain gravitates to. So like, so much of my shower music is like Korn and Rob Zombie and Linkin Park and Disturbed, and also like some Stevie Wonder and Build Me Up Buttercup, because you know some songs are just good.
Yeah.
But also a lot of like, there's like 3 Limp Bizkit tracks on there, because, and I just hit shuffle. Oh, and The Touch from Transformers the movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That played while I was in the shower today, and I got out going, you know. But I've also been listening to music. Usually when I'm door dashing, I still use an iPod. Shut up. But I listen to podcasts of British people talking. So it's either like School of Movies or Kane and Rents. And that's just what I listen to. Except for like the last almost a month, I've switched over to music that's just on my iPod. And the music on my iPod is very much music from college, because it's still MP3s that I downloaded through various now illegal means back then. And like, also the music from Rocket League and the music from Hades were the 2 newest bits of music that I added to the iPod. But like, I don't ever... Buying music, once I got out of CDs, buying music is not a thing that I've done. So like, all the music that I have is music that I just acquired through various nefarious means back in the day, and I've just never bothered to add to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because music is a distraction for me. It's not a thing to do. Like, Mike will sit around and listen to music to be listening to music. If I'm just listening to music, it's because I'm doing something else. Mm-hmm. Like, that's one of those differences between people. And so I don't buy music. If someone's like, oh my God, listen to this, I will totally, listen to it. And if it's good, I'll be like, awesome. And if it's not, I'll go, awesome. Cause I'm just going to be polite. But, but yeah, like what was the last thing that played when I got out of the car? Oh, it was the Proto-Men's Night of Queen version of Bohemian Rhapsody. It was what was playing when I got out of the car. And I went, yes. But yeah, music that has some sort of connection to me. Like, I despise country music, but someone that meant a lot to me back in the day put that damn Toby Keith song, How Do You Like Me Now, on like a mixed CD. And so now I love that song, even though Toby Keith can, yeet himself into the sun, and that would be fine, because he's one of the reasons that country music sucks these days. But
I don't listen to country music, and it's not one of those like it all sucks. I've just never been a big fan of it. But the first time I heard "Ride a Horse, Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy," I'm like, really? And like, it's one of those things where I'm only half listening to the radio, and I'm only catching, and then I stop, and about like the second verse or whatever, I'm like, is this saying what I think it's saying? And then
that's a fun one. I like that one.
It is fun. Yeah, that's one that kind of caught my attention a little bit, just to be like, oh, okay, cool. So I have liked the occasional country song.
I think I like 3 country songs from like the modern like post 9/11 age. I think that's like 1, and before that I think it's like 2 or 3. Like, Mom used to be all about some old school Alabama, and that stuff still slaps.
Yeah.
And like some Oak Ridge Boys. some Exile. I think Exile might have been country. They were on a tape with some Alabama, so they might not be Exile, but Exile might not be country, but it's the same thing in my head. An Air Supply? That's not country, but I'd love me some Air Supply. You know why? Because Mom listened to it all the time when I was in the car with Mom. So that's the other place. My other foot of music is stuck in like what Mom listened to on Magic 99.5 going to work every day or taking me to school every day. Yeah.
So I think Chewy alluded to Mike having a different approach to music. Mike.
I didn't allude to anything. I stated it outright.
So yeah, I still semi-actively seek out new music, and I still collect CDs and records and everything. I was also in band in school. I started in 6th grade and was involved through high school. And in most of high school, I was in the jazz band.
Nerds! Sorry.
Yeah, really. Well, yeah, I was in the jazz band partly because I wanted to do more, but I didn't want to join the marching band because those people were weirdos. But
Having dated several
really
members of the band throughout the years, you are correct.
Yeah. And I just listened to a lot of music on the radio growing up when I was a little kid because it would always be on in the car. And like Chewy just said, I heard all the stuff on the mix stations that Mom would have on in the car, or the oldie stations that would be on a lot for a long time. When I was in elementary school and middle school and through high school even, I kept my alarm clock radio tuned to the local oldie station. So it was just a bunch of Motown and folk rock and psychedelic rock and all kinds of things like that. Yeah, it was great. And yeah, it's just something that I kept as just an interest, a fun pastime to sit and listen to music and to go find new music. And if I find something I really like, to continue following the artists through the years. There are some artists that I've followed for like 20 some years at this point. Maybe not that long. Almost. Yeah, I did them almost that long. And it's just fun. It's just enjoyable. It's fun to sit and really. Some of the best things are things that you can put on just to have on while you're doing things that also reward like really close concentration and listening. I love stuff like that, where it's just good to have on. It just feels good to have on, but also if you sit and really pay attention to composition and the lyrics and some of the weird stuff people are doing, that you can get a lot out of it that way. Were you just breathing, or were you about to say something?
I breathe a lot.
Okay, got it.
I breathe constantly.
I did want to say, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I do feel like when it comes to popular music, I'm a little behind the curve for everybody else. And I will hear music on the radio all the time, and I'm like, I like this song, I don't like this song.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, that song with from the movie, wow, that's highly specific. But there was that movie. There was that movie with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. It's like the 50th time someone has made that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that song, Shallow
Mm-hmm.
has like, there's a couple of radio stations around here that just like it was like all they could do to like play it every 5 minutes. And I liked it the first time, and then I got very tired of it. But for the most part, I enjoy finding new music. And so I've just thought Mike would get a kick out of this because I know he knows the artist. I had heard a song a couple times on the radio. I'm like, I really like it when this song comes on. It comes on the rock station. I don't hear it anywhere else. You know what? I'm going to look this up when I get home. And I go home and I go to YouTube because that's where I go to look up music. And I type in Black Parade. And I'm like, oh, I think I've heard of this band before. I think Mike has mentioned this band to me once or twice before, and I never made that connection. Chemical Brothers, right?
My
Wait.
no.
My Chemical Romance.
My Chemical Romance. I don't listen to
That's
them,
right.
and I wouldn't have talked to you about them.
Oh, okay. Then I
I
just
definitely
assumed
would have
for
talked
some
to you.
reason.
I definitely would have talked to you about the Chemical Brothers, because that stuff's awesome.
See, and there we go. I think I probably made that mistake.
And
Where I'm like,
they are one of the artists that I've been following since like high school.
there. See, these these artists should not be allowed to have names that are so close together. We need to clamp down on that. Somebody get the First Amendment involved. And see, now I get to embarrass myself in front of everybody. But I like the song.
I saw a post on Facebook like a couple weeks ago of someone didn't know who somebody was. And this somebody, it turns out, was the drummer for Blink-182. And I don't know.
Travis Scott?
Travis something, yeah. And it was a screenshot of someone not knowing who that was. And the person that posted it said, imagine not knowing who Travis Scott is. And I went, yeah, it's like we all have different experiences and interests, you freaking loser. Like, I don't know who this guy is. It's like, how do you not know the drummer of Blink-182? I'm like, why do you know the drummer of Blink-182? And it led to this whole...
I don't know why I know.
Yeah, like, what... I could tell you the at least I used to be able to tell you who all the members of Korn were, but I don't expect anyone to know that. And this person was like, imagine not knowing who this person is. Travis Barker. There we go, Travis Barker. And I was,
Travis Barker, okay.
I was like, why are you such a gatekeeping douchebag? But I didn't say that because I was trying to not pick a fight on Facebook. But
so there are certain people who I would expect would know who I'm talking about if I were to mention the name Bill Ward, and not the rest of the people in that group. But I don't expect everyone to know that. Who knows that?
I mean,
that's the guy that I used to do Monday Night Magic with, right?
I mean, I most of the time, like what I just said about My Chemical Romance versus Chemical Brothers, I mean, no disrespect toward artists, but I remember music songs much more readily than I remember artists, like just all the time, unless it's somebody that I instantly recognize them.
Yeah.
And apparently, so last year during COVID, I got caught up and finished Game of Thrones. And apparently, I stayed spoiler free for all of it. But apparently, after I finished it, I was reading reviews, and apparently there was a popular artist that guest starred on like 5 minutes of an episode, and people were talking about, oh, it breaks the immersion and da-da-da. And I'm like, I have no clue who this guy is.
Like, who?
And first of all, and then second of all, it's not like Scooby-Doo where they're like, oh, it's the members of the Globetrotters, and it's apparently I had to like find out which episode it was, and I kind of vaguely remembered. So it's not like the Starks are sitting around and they're like, hey, it's popular artist Little Richie, and he's like, hey, I'm Little Richie. No, apparently he was just like a guy around a campfire. So Ed Sheeran, maybe? I want to say Ed Sheeran.
It's Sheeran, yeah.
Sheeran. There's no D?
No, there's no D.
I mean,
Ed has a D in
it.
Otherwise, it's just
He's just eh.
So, but at the same time, it's one of those things where I don't want it to sound like, I realize there are people that work on these things, songwriters, the artists that perform them, whether or not that's the same person, producers. There's a lot of work that goes into this, so I don't want to be like, yeah, I don't care. I'm just saying it does not necessarily stick with me. Oh, and by the way, I don't hate Nickelback. I know I'm supposed to hate Nickelback because everybody hates Nickelback. I actually think they're fine.
Yeah, they're fine.
I don't hate Nickelback. I also don't like Nickelback, except for what's it called? Burn It to the Ground. Burn it to the ground. Yeah. Yeah, that one I like.
I like the song that they did. I think it's called "Hero," that was featured in the first Spider-Man movie.
Oh yeah.
That was not. And I don't think that was Nickelback. I think that was just the lead singer.
Chad, what's his name?
Yeah.
Was it him and the guy from Saliva?
Maybe.
Um,
Wow. So we haven't heard from Dirk yet.
but the other thing, the other Nickelback song that I know is Nickelback because I have the CD is I think it's called "If Everyone Cared," and call me a sap, but that song has a different feel to it, and I really do enjoy that song. So, but yeah, okay, I'm done. Dirk.
Well, my um, sort of to give a background on my music taste and everything. I also was in the band in high school. I started band in middle school. I won't count my elementary school days because that involved the recorder, and that's not really music. So I did band all the way through high school, marching band, concert band. I actually took a couple of classes in
I heard that,
college
Mike.
because do what?
Somebody whispered weirdo.
Yeah. But I took a couple classes of band in college because I mean I played the baritone and I had this big baritone, and so I was like, well, I'm gonna keep playing a little bit in college, and so I actually played in concert band in college a couple times. Um, mine my music taste started out as being oldies because that's what my dad listened to
Mm-hmm.
all the time. So I knew I mean, I loved the oldies back when I was growing up and everything. And then as I got a little bit older, there was a shift to country music, and Clint Black was my favorite
Hmm.
artist at that time.
All right,
Because
hang on. I got to kick Dirk
CMT,
off the call.
yeah, I know. So this was when CMT was actually just like they just played country music videos all the time, and so that I kind of got into that. And was I listened to country music all the way up into high school, and at that time, I being exposed to once he got to high school, we actually started playing real musical pieces. Middle school, you play some pieces that kind of sound like pieces you want, or it's sort of that your tutorial time when you're learning your instruments and everything. And high school is when we really started playing some real challenging pieces that sort of broadened my horizon. And that was also the time when there were people in the band who would say, "Hey, let's all hang out and everything." And that's where I developed my classic rock interest for bands like the Eagles, Pink
Hmm.
Floyd, Metallica. That's where that came from, was in high school, and then it got reinforced in college. But that's also where I started to develop my interest in classical music and just or game music. I was playing video games and I loved the music. I got exposed to the Final Fantasy games in middle school and high school and video game music, and it just that essentially was what my interests were all the way through college, was video games. um Not so much country at that point. Once I got out of high school, I would still hear some, but not really interested in it anymore. So nowadays, it's mostly classic rock, still some oldies, and classical pieces, video game stuff, and everything is what my main interest is. I do occasionally, well, back in college, where I started picking up new stuff was again being around everybody. I got exposed to V&V Nation. That's where I kind of picked up on it. Um, but also where I got exposed back in the early days of the internet, watching. You type in looking for videos, and people would take video games like Final Fantasy 9, and they would add other tracks to it, and
Oh,
that's
to
where I
the
got exposed
like
to.
the
Hmm.
cinematics.
Right. And
Yeah.
so that's where I got exposed to like Nightwish and I'm looking for it right now. Um Trying to find the
Yeah, like
specific,
that's how
but
I found out about like set to anime scenes. That's how I found out about Our Lady Peace. That's how I got reintroduced to The Offspring.
mhm. So within Temptation was the other big one that I really developed an interest in. because of it. And again, you've got like movies with Adele singing Skyfall and all that. But really, it was watching those old movies where people would take cinematics um, and put music to them, and that sort of was an avenue for broadening. And then you have video games where they included others. So Final Fantasy 15, they got Florence and the Machine to play Stand By Me. And so I started
Ooh.
looking into Florence and the Machine, and I've really started enjoying a bunch of their songs as well. So video games and all that have sort of been an avenue for me to pick up music. And then, like, whenever I was teaching in Burlington, I had the soundtracks to the World of Warcraft music. And I would just play it while I was doing work, kind of as background music and everything.
Ambient
And
music, yeah.
and then and then
Ambient, sorry.
yeah, and I had a student who was there was a student who wasn't mine, but he was a band person. He walked by and was like, "Have you heard of Two Steps from Hell?" And I was like, "I have no idea who that is."
You're
And
like,
then
that's my life, kid.
and then I listened to a few videos and was like, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is the best." And so I got into Two Steps from Hell, and I love Two Steps from Hell. Their stuff is awesome and amazing. And listening to that through YouTube now, which is again is sort of what if I'm doing work and I just need something on to sort of as that ambient music. I put I used would do that, and then I got exposed to Anti Martin Kynan. Anti Martin. It's not kind, but he's a guy who does Celtic stuff, and there's a bunch of pieces he's done. I think it's Anti Martin Kynan is what his name is, but he does some really cool stuff as well. And there's a couple pieces that I've heard of his that my the expression my thought was, if I was listening to this, I'd be willing to mess somebody up. If this was the song that was going on the bed, it's like one of those ones that you put on. You're like, you know, before you're gonna get into a wrestling match, you're about to do something where you need to be, you're about to do something really dangerous and everything. Like if I put that song on, I'd be willing to do it.
This is why we don't let Dirk into the mosh pit, by the way.
That's right. Especially if King of the Highlands is playing in the background. Someone is going to get messed up, and I'm going to be involved in it. So, but yeah, that's YouTube has been a really good source because as I've listened to this and that, it's like, hey, you might be interested in this. And I'm like, here, let me try that. Hey, you're right. That was a good choice. And I even have my own favorite music list that I have that's got a lot of it's a classic rock stuff from ranging from the Beastie Boys all the way to the Rolling Stones and the Eagles and everybody. There's like, was it 87 videos is what it has listed on it.
Oh man, I need to look up Sabotage to put on my shower list.
Hmm.
I don't know why, but Sabotage just feels like a good song to shower to.
And there have been days where the list has been nice because I can go, you know what, I've really had a bad day. Today is going to be the Noose from. It's not Breaking Benjamin. A Perfect Circle, where I'm just like, you know what, today's the Noose. I just want to play that because I'm just having a bad day. That's the song I'm playing. And so there's all of these range of songs that I like to just sort of go to depending on what mood I'm in. But generally, the one that I've gone to recently at work is I go to the Ambient World. It's the one of the YouTube channels where it's just ambient music, and it's like 3 or 6 hours of just ambient music. And it's from games, it's from movies, and I'll just be like, yeah, I feel like that. And I'll just during my planning period while I'm either grading stuff or doing whatever, that's what's playing on in the background, and that's all I need. I just need something in the background to keep me from being distracted and going to other YouTube stuff while I should be doing work.
Right.
Can I just say how I don't know why, but this doesn't fit in my head. Dirk listening to A Perfect Circle. I don't know why that just strikes me as odd.
That was a Tina song. So that was back when I was dating someone, and she listened to
that does
heavy
make a
metal.
lot more sense all of a sudden.
And so we would listen to it, and so I was like, you know what? I enjoyed that song, and that's Breaking Benjamin was when she exposed that to me. And so that was where a lot of like the heavy stuff sort of came from for me. Generally, classic rock is sort of what I listen to if I'm going to listen to stuff with words. But that there are these random bits from things like Evanescence that when she was big, and everything. So again, it ranges based on what was big at the time, what I listened to, and like I said, college and high school. Since what Chewy had mentioned is where I got exposed to a lot of different varieties of music. And at that time, that sort of helped narrow sort of the pathway of what I had an interest in and what stuff I didn't. But I think that I have a pretty broad interest in everything. So I don't narrow myself to I only listen to this. And again, that's not saying any one of us does that, but I sort of have my hand in a bunch of jars when it comes to music genres because that was the groups I was in, that was when I was in school, that was family and everything. So
I think, and Chewy had mentioned this earlier. I think it was Chewy. Apologize if it was Mike. But some of my mindset for some of my music or some of my go-to music is still late 1990s, early 2000s from when I was in high school. Same way for me. I still enjoy hearing new music, but that is the last time I really bought a lot of music. I still have CDs, but probably the last CD I even got was a couple Christmases ago. I asked for and received a CD for 30 Seconds to Mars because I had heard some of their stuff, really liked it. And so I have that one, and I have a CD player in my car, so occasionally I'll pop that one in when I just feel like listening to it.
That reminds me, Brian.
Yes.
I appreciate you making me feel slightly better. Because the first time I ever heard Black Parade was when Scott downloaded it on Rock Band. I was like, I've never heard this song in my life. He's like, how have you never heard the song? I was like, I don't listen to music on the radio. Yeah. He was like, this is old, right? I went, okay. And then we played it once, and I was like, this song is awesome! And he goes, yeah.
There you go.
And he just looked at me. I was like, what? And I thought I was late to that. So, thanks, Brian.
There you go. Hey, I am here to make everyone feel more in with what's going on in their lives and the world around them. That is one of my life's purposes.
And look at Squee subbing for the 28th month. He said, I say it again, shout out to the I'm sure he means CDRs, that lived in your car's sun blocker. Yeah. I didn't actually have the sun visor CD holder, but agreed.
Yep.
So here, let me change
sure.
tactics real quick. Please, what about live music?
Live music.
Like the first concert that I ever went to, I picked a hell of a way to start, was the Sick and Twisted tour. It was the opening act was Mindless Self-Indulgence, which was god awful, and then it was Stained, and then it was Korn. And that was awesome. We walked there from campus because it was freshman year, and we just walked over to the Coliseum from campus, so we didn't have to fight with we drove our car and parked on that side of campus. And yeah, that was amazing. And then I started going to the tavern to hear a bunch of random local bands Is Kenny's band actually was the reason that I started going to the tavern, where I heard all kinds of local stuff that I still listen to because I still have the MP3s on the iPod. And that's where, it's not where I discovered Swift. I discovered Swift freshman year, but I never actually went to see them until I had already been going to the tavern and Swift was going to play at the tavern. So I went to like local band concerts just constantly for several years in college.
Yeah.
And then I went to see the Proto Men at MagFest. Well, I didn't go to see the Proto Men. I went to see the Mini Bosses, but the Proto Men played before them. And then I've been to, I'm pretty sure, every Proto Men concert since then that has been within like a 2-hour driving distance.
Yeah, there weren't many of them.
And Mike went with me to like most of those, if not all of them.
Mm.
So if we're talking about live stuff, and I don't think we're talking about like high school musical programs or anything like that. I didn't do a whole lot in high school, except I did go to a couple of concerts, just a handful. At there's a place in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, called the Cat's Cradle. I hope it's still there.
It is.
Okay, good. And I would go for some.
It's struggling right now, of course, but it's still there.
Well,
I would imagine. I've gone there many times over the past several years.
Okay. I imagine most live venue places, especially on the smaller scale like that, where you don't, Cat's Cradle, if you separate by 6 feet, you can only have like, what, 3 people in there? Not that.
I mean, like 10.
They've renovated it a couple times. It's been an institution for a while. Like, I'm pretty sure that when my mom and her sister were in college, Cat's Cradle was a thing even then.
Okay. So I went there a couple times. Went to like, I think, one concert with Chewy while we were in college. He's like, hey, here's this, band. And so I went, and you could tell I had not been going to this stuff for a while, because I came home, and at this point I was living with Carrie already, and I like reeked that smell that you only get on you at a live concert.
Yup.
As someone that does
when
not
indoor
smoke.
smoking was still allowed.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you smell like cigarettes and weed and sweat and weed and spilled beer and weed.
Yeah, pretty much.
In that order.
And then I actually think, not counting, Disney live programs, because I've been to some of those, the last grown-up concert that I saw was with Chewy and Lex for Christmas. Hardcore.
Trans-Siberian Orchestra?
Yes.
Nice. I've been to see them 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Oh, I left out a big one. I went to see Guns N' Roses when they played a few years ago.
You forgot Guns N' Roses? I'm sorry. You're gonna have to leave your music card here with us.
I perpetually forget things that have happened to me. So yeah, I forgot. But that was awesome, and I'm not even like a huge Guns N' Roses fan, and that was awesome. It's the second time I cried at a concert, when they played November Rain. Yup, I'm a little girl. I don't give a damn. That was amazing. My date was like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I love this song."
There's something in my eye. You're the one who's crying.
How about you, Mike or Dirk? Live music experiences.
I'll do mine because Mike's is much more extensive than mine. Mine was again Wolf Trap for the music for the video game concert, and then I did a couple at whatever the place was in Winston, and I think the Fuel was the main song group, and there was just a bunch of really terrible ones, bands before them. And we only stuck around for a couple of Fuel songs before it was time to head out. And then the big one that I got to go to was oh god, now I can't remember. Bon Jovi.
Whoa.
I got to go to Bon Jovi when he was in Greensboro. and that was a good concert. And let me tell you, Bon Jovi knows how to work a crowd
Oh, I bet.
because he didn't sing half his songs. The the crowd sang
I was
half
saying
his
to
songs.
hold the mic out for half the song. Yep.
No, like yeah, he was like, whoa, and then he would just not sing, and the crowd would finish that song, and he did that
Yep.
multiple times. Because he got the crowd worked up and everything, and then he was just like, all right, you know, he'd lay it down for everybody, and then he'd let everyone finish it because they were so into it. And that's what I'm saying. He knows how to work a crowd because he didn't even have to finish his songs, and he did a whole bunch. And then he was what's the Greensboro guy who was on not The Voice. What was the other one? America's Got Talent, and he got really high up, and he was from Greensboro. He was the opening singer for, and I can't remember what his name was either. And
Yeah,
it's
them.
that guy,
Yeah.
So I can't remember what his. It's been so long. That was like 14 years ago, was when I did that, and then Trans-Siberian Orchestra was the last live concert I've been to. And I think that was like either the second or third time I'd seen them. Because Greensboro was sort of their, like every year they would come through Greensboro. Like every Christmas they would come through and do a concert.
Yep. Oh, pinball just made me remember. I missed seeing Slipknot because that's the concert I missed when I got the plague. No, I'm sorry, I lied. That was not Slipknot. It was the Power Man 5000 was the one I missed. I didn't go to the Slipknot concert because I was broke. But it was Static X and Power Man 5000. And that's the day I got the plague and ended up having to go home. Like I lived on the turlet, either sitting on it or kneeling in front of it for like a full 24 hours. And my girlfriend freshman year made me call my mom to come get me because she was afraid I was going to die because I couldn't eat or drink or sleep or anything. And I got taken home for like 3 days, and I missed a test in my computer science class and had to change my major because she wouldn't let me retake it because I didn't have a doctor's note. So I ended up dropping that class and changing my major to physics. So it turns out the plague had a significant impact on my life. In addition to not, getting to see Static X and Power Man freaking 5000. Damn it. Anyway.
And then
to answer your question, Pinball, mine was Static X, I guess.
And I can tell you that Mike has been to way more concerts than me and seen much better concerts than me, so.
I don't know about better.
Don't sell yourself short.
Well,
I did like going to local shows whenever I would hear about stuff. I started hearing about a lot of the local Greensboro acts from like Chewy and Devin when I first got into college. I'd still have a bunch of Tribunal Record CDs from the various artists I discovered that way.
Yep.
Lately, local acts have been just kind of limited to seeing like Irata here and there and other interesting people who come through. I end up going down to Chapel Hill a lot to either Cat's Cradle or Local 506 to see other acts that come through. It's impressive what kind of like big underground acts will come and play at those local venues like Cat's Cradle or 506 or the Lincoln Theater in Raleigh. 'Cause I've seen acts like Opeth and High on Fire and Clutch and Boris and Mastodon and
Jesus.
people like that, at venues like that. Just because, in some cities they can book the big arenas, but you don't see it as much. I think the biggest acts I've seen Iron Maiden a few times. I got to see Judas Priest. I got to see they were calling it Heaven and Hell, but it was basically the the Black Sabbath lineup with Ronnie James Dio reformed, with Vinny Appice on drums, and that was awesome. And I saw Roger Waters when he was in Greensboro. That was super awesome.
Cool.
But yeah, live music is exciting. The last live show I got to see was back last February, I think, something like that. And I got to go there with my brother and with Ashley. That was nice. I got to see Ohm play at Motorco in Durham. That was a really good show.
I still get their freaking emails, Mike.
Good.
No, I've tried so many times to unsubscribe.
Oh, okay. When I think back to like the best live show that I've ever been to, when I count up all the different factors that go into saying, okay, this one is the best, like I have to say it's a Weird Al show that I went to. My brother got me a ticket for my birthday a few years ago.
Awesome.
Yeah, he was at the Durham Performing Arts Center, and just the music and the costumes and the lighting and the AV stuff, it was just amazing. The whole thing, awesome. And one of the other impactful ones, in multiple senses of the word, was I got to see. So there's a music festival in Raleigh called Hopscotch, and sometimes it's possible to get tickets to single events instead of having to buy like a day pass for the festival, which is expensive as hell, especially if you don't want to see everyone on the bill. I got to see Sun perform at Memorial Auditorium in Raleigh. So it's a genre called drone. It's these very like super long form, big blasting, shapeless kind of compositions. It's almost not music. It's hard to explain the appeal, but live, they have this back line of amps just stretched all the way across the stage, hooked up to the PA system of the building. Before the show started, I heard someone talking nearby saying that he knows someone who works in the auditorium and that the building was shaking during the sound check. But yeah, they crank those things all the way up. They have a fog machine on either side of the stage, blasting full blast. They come out there in these big, long robes. And here and there, through the fog, you catch glimpses of these shadowy figures just, and you can hear the sound rushing over you as it comes out of the speakers. You're just sitting there soaking in it. And it was a very impressive experience. I'm glad I got to go.
Huh. Yeah, I remember you saying that you were gonna go see Sun, and if anyone, that's what's on your hoodie, right?
Yeah, I have one. Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone's ever played against Mike at a card shop or anything, you've seen he has a Sun hoodie. It's just one of those things that's his armor to go to a any sort of Magic event. So I was like, oh my god, and you were like, Mike doesn't get giddy very often.
Yeah. I almost got an opportunity to see them again when Moogfest was in Durham instead of Asheville for some reason, but it conflicted with Devin's wedding, so I went to Devin's wedding instead.
You chose poorly.
But yeah, I love live shows. I look forward to going out and seeing some more.
Yeah, I can't wait for the plague to be over so we can go listen to some music again.
That would be nice.
Dirk just dropped us a link. Apparently Rage is playing. Where is PNC Arena?
It's in Raleigh.
Raleigh.
That's Raleigh, okay.
Rage and Run the
State
Jewels.
Fairgrounds are.
I've never even heard of Run the Jewels. What is Run the Jewels?
Run the Jewels, they're a rap duo. My brother loves them. I wouldn't be surprised if I got a text from him about this very soon.
You should
Ha!
probably hit
Beat
him
him.
off.
Mhm.
You could send it to him and be like, beat you.
We got a question in the chat. Anyone like singing? Yeah, when it was still possible to do, I'd been involved at the choir at my church for the past few years. That was really fun. But
What was that?
hasn't really been wise to go in person and do stuff like that for a while. So I haven't been doing that for like the past year or so. It's a little disappointing that I don't get to participate in that way because I still enjoy making music. I enjoyed being in the band when I was younger, and it was fun to make music again. But I just haven't been able to do it with all the circumstances.
That was Cap going live? That wasn't Cap going live. I don't have any sort of sound. It was a... So chat just heard a blink, a badink sound, and it happened when I hit Gmail in my open tabs here. So it was a Hangouts message, but there are no messages. So I don't know what that was about, unless it was like I got the message from Mike on my phone, and I hadn't opened up the Gmail tab since then. So it was a delayed messenger or Hangout sound. It just weirded me out. That's so explaining to the people listening. That's why they heard a sound and me go, what? I was not whatting at Mike singing in the choir.
It all makes sense now. Or does it? I think it does.
And I sing in the car constantly, but I don't, and I used to sing playing Rock Band, obviously, but I don't sing like when there are people around anymore.
I'll occasionally drop songs in class, and people will look at me. Granted, on Zoom, they look at me all the time anyway, but...
Yeah, what else are they going to look at, right?
I'm about to say, it used to be a thing I would do in class that I would just say something and then I would like sing a little bit of it and see if people kind of looked at me and thought, what is this person doing? Or sometimes they would giggle at the fact that I was attempting to sing something. But I would never sing like a whole song. Although I would occasionally, if somebody kept asking a question over and over, eventually I would do the William Tell Overture in No. No, 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 and just do that, and literally do the whole song, and they would just go, "Okay, I got it," and I would just keep going until I got to the whole song, because I
don't
actually
think you
know
got
the
it.
entire song from front to start, and do the entire song in nothing but no.
Nothing but no.
So, Lieutenant, what did you learn at school today? Well, my teacher said no.
For 4 minutes.
You know, I was gonna say something. I had a
No.
comment that was gonna like branch off of that, and when you said that, somehow what I was gonna say completely flew out of my mind. Oh, you were talking about singing. Okay, so
I was going to say Dirk result, but never mind, he remembered.
I will sometimes I used to sing in choir. I was in choir at a very young age until my voice changed. I remember the very first choir production we ever did. I had a solo singing "What Will We Do with the Drunken Sailor," and you know, like fourth grade me is kind of like, this sounds kind of funny. I don't get it, but sure, okay. I'll still, my favorite time to sing right now is I have the Echo Dot. You know, that one with the name that starts with A that I won't say out loud because then she'll start doing stuff.
Yeah.
Well, there's not one in this room, so, but I'm paranoid about that now. I'll have it play a song, once again, kind of taking it back to, you know, songs that I remember from my childhood, and I'll sing along, and Sam is just looking at me like, what are we doing?
We're rocking, kid.
the other day I had it play Bohemian Rhapsody, and I got just about the whole song. And now I want to give Sam credit. Last week when she was home from school, we were looking for something to watch. Didn't want to watch anything like Korra that we're watching with Carrie. So I was on Disney Plus, and I'm like, hey, here's this X-Men cartoon from when I was a kid. But I warned her, it is chock full of 80s, 90s stuff. Like, somebody saying something like malls, and somebody being like, oh, that's so great. Not. And stuff like that. Yeah. And well, and that's it. So we watched a couple episodes, and then later she asked to watch one or two more, and it gives you the option to skip the intro. And I was going to skip it, and she's like, don't. And I'm like, don't? She's like, don't. And then earlier today, she was asking the Echo Dot to play the theme song, and I was so proud. Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
I liked her for some reason.
We haven't really talked about it, but music and television is another thing where it's one of those things that a lot of times you don't necessarily pick up on it because it's just there to accent the mood. If you do pick up on it, sometimes it's a bit jarring, but otherwise it can be really good. I don't know that it has the same emotional impact for me as like a video game, because video games are by nature more interactive than a TV show. Anytime people are like, "Oh, video games are bad," I'm like, it's a play or a book that you're literally like helping tell the story for. But whatever. I also like RPGs.
Experience.
It's an interactive experience. I think that's some people's problems with like Call of Duty or whatever, is you're interactively killing terrorists. But whatever.
I said the same thing about comic books and TV.
Yeah.
So
books, it turns out.
It's true. We still burn some books, right?
What?
So.
No, I mean when books became easily redone with the printing press, when people were like, "What books? How people aren't going to talk at the dinner table anymore?" Have you heard that before? You have, about all the things Dirk just said.
Yep.
True. But so
have you guys seen? Speaking of like music from TV shows and whatnot, there's a thing going around the internet lately of the end credits from Predator, where it shows a character. It's the thing that movies don't do much these days. It shows a character and then the actor who played them, and they grin at the camera or something.
Yeah,
but it's like the end credits from Predator go perfectly with old sitcom music, and there's just been a billion of them, of old sitcom themes put over this video, and every single one is brilliant. Everything from like the upbeat from like Full House all the way down to like Suicide is Painless from MASH, and it all works. I spent like 30 minutes one day just watching these in a Twitter thread, like, ha! And then I watch the next one and go, and I watch the next one, and my headset just fell off.
Well, one that I enjoyed was Seagulls from Bad Lip Sync.
Oh god,
that was amazing.
Well, that's not even like TV shows. Now you're getting into full on memes. So, my brother Jimmy introduced Sam to that, and for a while there, like every day, can I have the Echo Dot play Seagulls? I'm like, how many times have you listened to it already? She's like, just twice.
46.
Like, I mean, it's funny, but no. When it comes to like TV shows and movies, there's two kinds of soundtracks. There's a lot more than that, but I'm breaking it down very generally. There's the ones that, especially, you guys know, in these were really popular in the 1990s and 2000s with like She's All That and I Know What You Did Last Summer, where it was the soundtrack was songs by popular artists. Yeah. That was the soundtrack. And then there's soundtracks where it's actually a score and written for the movie or TV show. And not to sound elitist, because I have enjoyed some soundtracks. I have the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack on a CD. I have the original X-Men movie soundtrack. I'm on CD. I can't remember how I got that. I thought the movie was
Wait, like
and
the
soundtrack.
Score?
the actual like the soundtrack, like with the
There was a
artists and all.
soundtrack?
Yeah, and it's never been my favorite. It's got a really
Huh.
weird cover of "One Is the Loneliest Number" that I've just
What?
yeah. Dude, Google it when we're done. I'm not sure, but
What?
but generally I prefer when there's a quality score. It really kind of it brings me more into it than just, oh look, here's that song that I remember when the Godzilla movie with Matthew Broderick came out. One of the main songs that they hyped on the soundtrack was the remix of "Come With Me." Who did that? P Diddy. um and like I
Got me.
watched the whole movie, and it was like a 15-second clip while two people are talking on a subway, but the soundtrack made it seem like it was like the song for the movie, so that was a little distracting.
Oh, that reminds me. The music in like the trailer for, I think it was The New Guy, wasn't in The New Guy, but it was in the Van Wilder. And the music from the trailer for Van Wilder wasn't in Van Wilder, but it was in The New Guy. And that always pissed me off. But also, yeah, you guys remember when the soundtrack to a movie was like a selling point? Not only to buy
Yeah,
the soundtrack, but also
Yeah.
for the movie?
yeah,
What
Mhm.
happened to those days? I guess it became a pain in the ass.
I guess.
Wasn't
I
that
mean,
essentially
still
a
see some
Nightmare
of it,
Before
like,
Christmas? Wasn't that a big thing? That the soundtrack to it was.
Well, no, I mean
Well,
like the pop music soundtrack, not the
yeah,
original music
Oh,
soundtrack.
yeah,
gotcha.
and getting into a musical is its own thing. Where that wow, yeah. Like I have never seen the production of Wicked, but Mom has it in her car, and so I got to know a lot, like Defying Gravity. I've read the book that the play was based on, but I think the play takes some pretty serious liberties because the book is very has some very NSFW themes going on, and I think that the play kind of cleaned some of that up so it would appeal to more people. So I've never seen the play, but I've heard the soundtrack a couple times. So musicals are, we could spend a whole time talking just about musicals because that the music is the story with those. Same with like opera, which opera is basically a kind of musical.
Which circles us back to the Proto Man with the rock opera.
Also true.
And Pink
Also
Floyd.
true. Oh, I think one of the first. Actually, I take it back. Um, this
That
is
was a
take it
song.
back. Yeah. So we are talking about live music a while ago. I can actually, man, Dirk, thank you. I remember the very first. Okay, dang it. People are like, what the heck is he even trying to talk about? I remember that one of the very
We
first
are.
concerts I ever saw was a Pink Floyd concert. But now that I'm thinking about it, it was a laser show. So it was not, it was a huge auditorium,
close enough.
but it was not like, I don't think Pink Floyd was there. But probably not. But it was still pretty cool.
No.
And we're talking about this would have been in 1995. So laser shows were very cutting edge kind of thing.
Yeah, I think at that point, Roger Waters and Dave Gilmour weren't really on speaking terms with each other. So no.
And Brian is like, who?
Yeah, well, yeah, I wasn't gonna say it,
Oh,
but yeah.
sorry, I did the thing again. Yeah, imagine not
Oh no,
knowing David
yeah,
Gilmour.
meh.
But I know there's been at least a couple Pink Floyd cover bands. Like they sing the songs and all that and
Mm,
everything. So that maybe that
yeah,
was that. Who knows?
And
I
I'm
saw
pretty
a
sure it was
really
just
good one.
lasers with a recording. What were you gonna say, Mike?
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw a really good Pink Floyd tribute band some years ago in Raleigh. I can't remember their exact name though. That was another thing my brother found out about, and we both went to. It was really good.
I was also, for some reason, really expecting Brian to say it was Pink Floyd, but I was too bombed out of my skull to remember.
Well, it's not getting super late, but it is getting late. It is getting late for at least some of us. Before we go too far, I've got to ask, what is your least favorite song, if you got one, least favorite genre, least favorite piece in a theater, in a video game or show that completely took you out of it, and you're like, oh, this was going so well, or oh wow, this was terrible, and this just makes it even worse. What's your least favorite song, or if you don't have one, genre or artist? Let's talk about things we don't like. Somebody else go first. Somebody that's more opinionated than me.
I hate modern country music. But I covered that already.
You did.
Yeah, I'm much more partial to older country western music. Oh my god, I just noticed something.
What's that, Mike?
So when I opened iTunes to answer someone's question in chat a little while ago, whatever Chewy had done to the RSS feed, it started downloading all of the episodes of the Manifold.
You should probably not have this set to auto download.
Yeah.
Good
God,
job.
I found like episode 200. Okay, damn. All right, I need
You
to
should
take a
probably
look
stop
at
that.
this. Yeah, I will.
Apologies, by the way, to anyone who suddenly had what Mike just happened and their iTunes started downloading the entire old episode run of the Mana Pool. I just recently figured out how to set it to every episode instead of just the last 100, so I did. Sorry, go ahead, Dirk.
Well, the for me, I think it really just it's sort of like on a song by song basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think the ones that the artists that I'm not really interested in are those that I guess are incredibly cocky about how good they are,
Mhm.
and just play up that I'm so much better than you. And I think, and and my problem is that I've been turned off by the artist before I've even really heard any of his songs, but like Kanye West, just because his attitude about things just makes me go, I have no interest in listening to your stuff because of how absolutely annoying you are.
And I think that is absolutely fair. And I'm sure there are lots of people that feel exactly the same way that you do. I think for me, because half the time I don't even know who the artist is, unless it's someone that I have a real big problem with, which most of the time I don't even know, unless it's a name like Chris Brown, where I know that that person has been associated with some really, really, really like questionable stuff. I know everyone, especially in music, every artist has been exposed to some stuff. So if I like the song, then I'm probably good. Not to say that, oh, that puts me, better or worse than Dirk. Just that's a different experience for me. So,
Yeah, to
It's
my knowledge, I've never heard a single Kanye song, and I'm good with that.
and see, and it's not to say that he's not a good artist. It's just I have
You just
no
don't care.
interest in listening to him
Yeah.
because because of how he is in public. It just makes me go, I have no interest in seeking that out.
right. And I
And
get that.
that's again, that's just my personal take on it. So, and that's, there's probably people who are like, I have no interest in listening to Guns N' Roses because I understand that what's the lead singer, Axl Rose, is a really just giant, rather no, the kiss, a giant dick.
Bad word.
Burp! A giant burp,
See,
and everything. And I mean, he is, but and that if that turns someone off from listening to them, oh, that's perfectly fine.
I think the closest I've had to that sort of experience was, um, when I was a teenager, I had heard about Marilyn Manson. I had heard about some of the like
Oh yeah,
really
just outlandish
weird,
stuff about him.
yeah, and I saw one or two of his music videos, and it quite frankly kind of freaked me out a little bit. So I was like, okay, I think I'm good not listening to his stuff. And I
Oh,
have
I used to
been
love Manson up until just recently when whenever horrible crap came out about him, and I was like, bah!
so
After the 500th time,
Yeah, but
something else
unlike
came out.
most of the stuff from the like 90s and 2000, which was just, satanic panic nonsense, this is actual horrible crap. We're not going to go
okay,
into on the show, but
no,
yeah.
and I'm not getting into any of that. I think more along the lines of I was a very boring, follow the rules kind of teenager, and anybody that dressed up like that, and acted in some of those ways, and with again with the music videos, not to say I was a prude or anything, but it was out there, and I was like,
But he was.
being little sheltered me was like that's kind of gross, and so I'm not really into that. So yeah,
Yeah, for music, if I don't like something, I just don't pay attention. When I go and
Yep.
sample new music that I hear about or read about, most of the time I only end up listening to like 10 seconds of the
yeah.
first track. And I'm like, nah, I don't like it. And then I just put it away. The only things that really aggravate me are the material that I think is just kind of dumb and boring, but a bunch of people like for some reason. It's like Red Fangs. Like, I don't get it. Why? Or like Ailstorm or that other pirate metal stuff. It's like, okay, I get it, but it's so corny as hell. Why are people so enthusiastic about this? Like, in what seems like a sincere way. It's like, I don't know.
Because I think something we have learned, and it has come into sharp relief over the last months, years, for reasons I don't feel like I have to get into, is that it doesn't matter how crazy X is, whether X is a person or a genre of music or whatever, for every crazy thing out there, there's someone that totally buys into that for
Yeah,
whatever
but I'm
reason.
talking about stuff that's like boring, at least to me.
To you, and that's
I
just
do
it.
like the way
Is
that the guy who just went off on not being able to explain drone music is calling something else boring and doesn't get
I
it.
know it makes absolutely no sense.
but that's just it. Some music that I might really like. For a while, I really thought I was
Mhm.
into techno, and then I think what I realized is I just really liked video game music and some techno, especially what's it called? Where it's basically just ba bum ba bum ba bum. What was dubstep? I'm not. I'm not really. I'm not really into dubstep. So,
Demonetized.
yeah, I would love
Damn
to
it,
be able to
Brian.
play like samples of the music we're talking about, but I have actually looked into fair use, and let's not do that. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, and circling back to that, it's this. If you can feel like the jazz spirit in it, the rock and roll spirit in it, it makes a difference. Sometimes there's something there, and sometimes there's just something missing.
yeah,
Like, I'm pretty sure that if you heard a Motorhead song slow down to 10% speed, you'd still get this inexplicable urge to shotgun a beer and crush the can on your forehead. There's just something there,
Huh.
but
well,
there's
Mike,
just something not
you
there.
have to listen to the
Yeah.
absence, the space between the notes. Man. All right, I wanted to get the bad stuff out of the way, but before we finish this up, we got to talk about what either is currently your favorite song, because mine changes basically week to week. It's just whatever I'm in the mood for, or perhaps more permanent. What is the earliest piece of music that you remember? Earliest, not like when it came out, but in your life that you felt really meant something to you, that really made you go, yes. Or if it really made you go, ugh, we can do that. But
Uh.
hopefully we got a lot of the like negative stuff out of the way.
Huh. I got nothing.
Okay.
I think I heard like 2 or 3 questions in there. Which
Yeah,
question?
there
are
were
we
like 2 or
answering?
3 things in there.
Take your pick.
That might be why I have nothing.
Either what is currently your favorite piece of music, just that you can point at and think you think it's your favorite right now.
Okay, let's start
Or-
with that one.
Okay. What's your favorite piece of music right now?
I got nothing.
You are no use to me.
You are correct. But like I am famous for not doing favorites. I don't have favorite anything. And if I do, that means it's a thing I feel very strongly about. And I think I said earlier, music is just sort of a background thing for me. I don't have favorite music. Like
Okay.
Something that like I still want to listen to. It's like the first song on my shower music playlist is "What's Up, Danger"
Okay.
from Into the Spider-Verse.
That counts. So even if it's not favorite, if it's a go-to, then
Yeah, and that's a thing that I listen to pretty frequently. Yeah.
For my part, I tend to scroll through favorite songs as well, especially if it's a song maybe I haven't heard in a while. I'm like, oh yeah, I brought the Nickelback stuff. The one that I mentioned, if everyone cared, I played the other day, like 3 or 4 days ago, and it was the first time I'd heard it in months, and I'm like, yes, and I heard it and I love it, but I don't need to listen to it every single minute of the day. I think I'm good for a while. So I don't know that I have a current favorite one either. I just didn't know if anybody else did. Lately, I have gotten on YouTube just searching for background music, like Dirk has said about having something on in the background while I work or whatever. And I've had lots of files and stuff to go through. Not getting started with that. And I found this channel called My Soul Your Beats, My Soul Your Beats, and it's a lot of like fairly energetic songs. And
Wait,
just,
is it named that twice or did you say it twice?
I just said it twice.
Oh, okay.
So, and it does not appear to be this person's original work because they say music by and then the track, but he or she, I shouldn't assume, they put it on here, and it's usually like 5 minutes or less, and just I've heard a bunch of songs on this channel in the last couple of days, and I've enjoyed a lot of them. So yeah. What about anybody else? Anybody have a go-to song right now?
I don't really have a go-to song. But who's at there was a channel that I would go to quite a bit, and that had to do with epic music and whatnot. It was by the Prime something or other, and he would just have like again like Two Steps from Hell songs and have like 3 hours of just these songs, and that's actually where I was introduced to Anti Martin Kynan. Was it was a he was on the list, and it was just songs of his that was in like a 3 hour list, and I put it on and just I listened to it. I was doing work, and then I found what I would do is if I'm going okay, I got to sit down, I got to do this stuff. I would just go and pick that. The Prime Cronus is the guy's channel that I would go to, and he's got like 2-3 hours of epic music, mega mix, and most powerful action music mix. And I'm looking at this list of stuff that he's got on a channel. But yeah, it was, you know, that's essentially what his is. But that's usually what I'll throw on. And that's occasionally it'll have something on there that I'll be like, oh, what was that? And I'll go look it up. And there's been a couple that a couple groups that I got introduced to through these big music lists and everything.
Okay.
Nice.
Mike, I realize I have an addition, but I don't want to keep being like, oh, but by the way, so Mike.
Let's see. I don't just sit and listen to stuff as often over the past couple months. One, because work tries to kill me every once in a while, and two, because Ashley and I will like watch TV and do other stuff around the house too. So there's not as much dead time, where it's just me to sit down and listen to something. But let me think. The new
You
Paul
make the
Bear
dead
album
time, Mike.
yeah, the new Paul Bear album came out. That's really good. Something that I've wanted to sit down and listen to recently, for whatever reason, is the first Bell Witch album called Longing. There's just something got me thinking about it, just partly because I just like it a lot, and also because I had a thought about why the last song feels the way it does when it gets into the middle part, but I have to like listen to the whole album to see if my idea is right. Um, Go to song. Every once in a while, I'll still sit down and listen to Dope Smoker. It's a 58, no, 65. I can't remember which cut. Anyway, it's about an hour long. A single song that's about an hour long. Band is called Sleep. They started writing a new song when they were working on their new album, and it was already kind of long, but it felt like it was just cutting off too soon, like it wasn't finished. So they'd rewrite it and practice it, and it kept getting longer and longer and longer and weirder and weirder and weirder. And eventually they had something that was over an hour long. And I said, okay, it's finally finished. This is ridiculous. It was really difficult, but we like it. They went back to the record label that they had just signed with for that album, and the label was like, "What is wrong with you? We can't market this. Go back, fix it." So they went back and they did a little work and like cut like 10 minutes out of it and something, but still the label was like, "No, you're crazy. This is stupid. You're stupid. Get out." So they broke up, and like there was a bootleg release like that they silently approved of, and since then it's been remastered a couple times, and it's a really impressive composition. It's not just a long meandering bunch of mishmash of different ideas stapled together. It's a unified composition. It's really good, but that's something that you want to sit down and listen to or have playing in the car on a long car ride. It really pays to be able to listen to that in one go.
Huh.
Yeah, not many go-tos immediately recently.
Okay. And then my next question was, is there a song that you identify with from much earlier in your life that really kind of got your attention and said, wow, I really like music, or I'd like this song in particular? It could be like a Raffi song if you really remember back that far. I'm
I'm
I
sorry,
still like
what?
the Raffi down by the, well, I don't want to get demonetized. So
Is this
he
the thing I
did.
should know? What is a Raffi?
Well, you don't have
Raffi's
kids,
a
so
children's songwriter.
you almost certainly
Huh.
heard some of his songs at some point anyway.
Slightly more likely if a person's parents were more hippie-ish, but
Well, that was not my parents.
yeah.
Quick, how do you spell that?
Raffi.
That's what I figured. All right, let me look this up here.
But not to like keep repeating myself, I do think that video games probably, I like, even as a kid I enjoyed
Whoa, banana
classical
phone.
music.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and Down by the Bay and
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Puff the Magic Dragon.
No, that
What?
was
No,
I
Peter,
know
Paul,
that
and
one.
Mary.
Yeah, it was Peter Pan.
Why do I know that? I don't smoke weed.
It's not about that. I mean, they say it's not about that.
Yeah, okay.
But so I do think that video games had part of my enjoyment of music because again, I enjoyed the games and even like Super Mario Brothers was okay, but it was playing The Legend of Zelda that really, got me into some of the like, oh wow, this sounds really cool. I felt like it really fit. So we're talking about fairly early NES, but you know what? Probably if I had say the first one that really kicked it off for me on the NES, really taking it back here, there was a game called Destiny of an Emperor, and it took place in what I would say is medieval China.
That's an
Uh,
NES game.
it is an NES game, and it was kind of interesting in that it was an RPG, and it was I think literally the first RPG I ever played, not knowing how RPGs worked or anything. But what happened is you you started out with certain generals, and then their health was actually represented by the number of units in that they commanded. But when you stayed in, all your units were like restored, so it's hit points. And as you went through the game, you would collect additional generals, but also sometimes when you beat an enemy general, you could bribe them to come to your side. It was actually kind of complicated that way. Some you could, some you couldn't. Um, and it was all based on what I think is historical fact, or representations of the generals from the time as well as the events. But the music, like they had different music for different boss battles, or some boss battles. They had different music for different towns and overworlds, and it would change. And so it was a lot different from Mario and even Zelda. And between the gameplay, which I thought was really kind of different, as well as the music itself, it kind of became this intrinsic experience. I don't suppose it's not nearly as well known as Mario. I don't suppose you guys have ever heard of it, Destiny of an Emperor.
I mean, I've heard of it. I've
But
just never played it.
okay,
I have. I mean, it's entirely possible that while we were talking, at some point tonight, I downloaded the manual for it. And when I say entirely possible, I mean 100%. That's what happened. But
then make a note, check it out later. So, but yeah, so that was subgenre video games, and then specifically of video games, probably the first one that made me go, oh, music can be more than just do 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 demonetized do 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 do.
demonetized,
Yeah.
demonetized,
So
demonetized,
what about
demonetized, demonetized.
The
I'm
one
sorry.
for me that did it was the Red Wings from Final Fantasy IV.
opening? Wow, got you started early. Opening theme.
Yeah,
Well,
that
when you
was
start, yeah,
because it was just that was such a good, cool theme that you just never
it's
heard before, and that came out or I got to hear that back in had to been middle school,
yeah.
right when I was starting to do band and everything, and so that kind of was that it getting into the groove and everything, and then uh, the Mega Man X series, the Spark Mandrill level, just absolutely awesome song with the guitar playing and everything.
Like, I know that I have always liked video game music, but I don't remember appreciating any video game music really at the time. Like, I know it's in my head because as soon as I hear, it's the same with TV themes and like music from movies and whatnot. As soon as I hear it, I'm instantly taken back.
Oh yeah,
But I
Dirk
don't
says Red Wings, and
remember,
I'm like, boom, yeah.
like, I don't remember necessarily enjoying the Legend of Zelda theme in and of itself when I was a kid.
I think whenever I started taking band and having those few things like again like the Red Wing theme and everything, it made me sort of pay more attention to the songs because that's when like Star Trek, the the main theme for the original movie, the first movie, whenever they're yeah, it made me kind of pay attention and go, okay, I have a bigger appreciation for that, and that sort of again made me go in that direction if I want to listen to that. And then when Jurassic Park came out, the Jurassic Park theme, when they're going to the island, just it was by that point that I really knew that I had an interest in soundtracks and like video
Mm.
games and stuff like that. And I think a little bit later I started picking up a little bit of the classical stuff too. But my main interest in terms of music, where I had hunted out and had sought music on my own, were movie and video game soundtracks.
I want to say, just as a note of my own, that because you struck it with band, was music was always this thing, and like I took piano lessons because my parents made me, and I played the trumpet. But again, I never really had that connection with my instrument that real musicians get. So music was this thing that I just did. It was almost this revelation that I had one day when I was at the piano and I had played through Final Fantasy VI more than once. And I was just sitting there, and something in my head clicked. And through just trial and error, without any music in front of me, I was able to figure out the keys to play, um, the opera scene, that the track
Uh,
that
the
becomes
Ave
set.
Maria or the
What?
Ave one, yeah,
Ave Maria is definitely a real
yeah. It's
song.
not Ave Maria, but it's yeah.
The song, I figured out the notes to the song that becomes Celeste's theme, the ba da 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 da, and kind of like actually like piecing that together on my own gave me a strange sense of satisfaction. So
Nice.
yeah. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, Mike, with your face.
Let's see. Um, the thing that comes to mind as something that struck me is being like, wow, this is really fascinating how you can do this and it's music and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. There's um there's a track on the Pink Floyd album Dark Side of the Moon called On the Run, and it's really just a bunch of tape effects. It's not a lot of music going on in it, but it has a beat. It has this, uh, electronic beat looping in the background, tape effects. And when you sit and listen to it with headphones, because usually the first time I would listen to a CD, I would listen to it with my headphones on. Uh, you have the effects panning back and forth from left to right, right to left, and it's just fascinating. I hadn't heard anything done like that before, and the exposure to it was like, wow, this is really neat. How you can do stuff like this. This is really creative. This is really amazing.
Huh.
Hmm.
I have to look that up.
Yeah, it's good. Listen to it with headphones.
You're not my real
Cool.
dad.
Well, honestly, I feel like this has been a really great discussion. I don't know about you guys. Given what time it is, I don't know if we want to go ahead and wrap it up, but there are mounds and mounds and mounds of stuff we could still talk about, but maybe we'll come back to this topic at some point.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well
Okay,
then, how about we figure out how to final thoughts then? Because it is kind of late for us.
Mhm.
for us. I'm actually feeling okay, but I may not be in like 5 minutes.
Let's see, that'll
So
change as soon as you start thinking about it.
yeah.
So who wants
Well,
to
I'll go
thought
ahead
final
and
first?
yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and knock mine out then while Brian is still kind of awake.
Sure.
Um, it's been real fun getting to sort of kind of go through and think about what songs and what genres and everything. And it's I've thoroughly enjoyed, like you guys have said, high school, college, and just getting to broaden my horizon in terms of music. There's college was great because that's like I it's really hard to narrow down to which one had the more influence on broadening my musical interest. Um, but I will definitely say that I would not. I would be very remiss and very regretful if if I had not had those opportunities to meet people and hang out and broaden those horizons, or else I would still probably be listening to country music and still be able to hum along and sing with oldies, but that would be about the extent of my musical repertoire. So um, I'm very glad that I've had the opportunity to broaden that and learn and listen to some different groups and go from there. And that I'll sort of end my final thought with, and I actually need to head to bed.
Can I
So
ask you? Can I ask you
good
one
one.
quick question?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
I was going to ask this. I've thought about this earlier, and I decided to make it my final thought, but kind of a group one. Dirk, you are a boss in an RPG. What is your boss music?
My boss music would have to be it would be from Final Fantasy VII. It would be uh like it's the dun 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 dun, that music from Final Fantasy VII whenever, or 6, whenever there's like, it's not really boss music, but it's like there's a fight going on. That would be mine.
Neat.
Like when Sabin is going into the base and Kefka poisons the water and Cyan joins him, and it's that frantic kind of paced one.
I'm thinking more like when Ultros kind of shows up, and it's the
Oh, the really lively one, like when you fight him
yes,
at the opera.
yes.
Oh, that's a fun one. Okay, all right, you can go to bed now.
Okay.
That is all I needed from you. You may leave.
See you on Saturday.
All right. See you guys later.
Night, Zerk. What a
You
bunch
now
of
have my
weird
permission.
conversation.
Only then do you have my permission to leave the call, Bruce. So two parts to my final thought. First, that on a quote unquote peek into my real life, I've been beginning to run a D&D campaign. We'll see how long it lasts for Samantha, but also involving Dirk and one of his sons, and Mike and one of his wives, and my brother.
And none of
And
his wives.
yes, and we were gonna get started a little while ago, and then Mike and Ashley couldn't make it. So what we did was kind of had one group have an initial setting or session, and then Mike and Ashley had one last weekend, and everybody's going to be getting together this Saturday um, for the full thing, and by getting together, of course, on the internet. But I think so far, all the comments, I've asked for constructive feedback, but it's all been positive, so that's good to see. So I'll continue to report back on, how badly everyone's getting mauled. And then for mine, I didn't know if I wanted to go with something more obscure. I'm definitely a fan of the almost second tier boss music that plays in Final Fantasy VI, like when you fight Atma Weapon for the first time and the Warring Triad. That's a pretty good one. But I got to go back to that Baruberry theme from Breath of Fire 2. That's the one I mentioned with the basically giant demon that kills you as a kid and then turns out to be actually not only the second to last boss in the game, but literally the harder than the final boss. It's called, I had it up here from Breath of Fire 2. It's called A Crisis because sure, but I like that, so that's mine. And it makes me feel like I'd be much tougher in the game than I am in real life, and that makes me feel good about myself. Next.
That'd be you, Mike.
Um, glad I got to participate in our session of D&D after missing the first one with the rest of the group. I have some questions for the rest of the group when we meet them, because I suspect that something we saw was the aftermath of whatever they did.
And there's at least two things I think you could be referring to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
splitting the party is fun.
Yeah. But yeah, that's going to be fun. Ashley had fun. I'm glad she's getting to participate in it.
Absolutely. I'm so glad she wanted to do this. So
yeah. Besides that, gosh, not much has been going on outside of ridiculous work stuff, fortunately. So yeah, the socializing over the internet has been a bright spot. I'm glad I was able to socialize over the internet tonight as well.
Yay.
Yay.
Even though you were late.
Yeah, I was. I had to finish with dinner and stuff.
Your dinner sounded awesome, so
Yeah, it
was. Yeah, that's it.
What's your boss theme?
Oh, my boss theme? The Ject theme. No. I don't know.
That's okay.
It would be Dope Smoker.
It's just no. You start the battle with Mike, and it's just ambient sounds, but it's like random ambient sounds, so it really throws you off. And the whole time you're expecting like a second phase, and it just doesn't happen. And it's just like a mind trip. I love it.
And then you don't actually beat Mike. Mike gets bored and goes to make a sandwich.
He's like, "Oh wait, the phone. I gotta go." And you get, and it's one of those things where he wanders off, and you know how it is in some RPGs. Like, he wanders off. There's like a 5-second delay where like nothing happens, and then the bar at top and at bottom just like slowly come in toward the middle, and you're like, "What just happened?" I love it. I think that's just you, Chewy.
Yeah. So, before I go into the final thought stuff real quick, I want you to go to patreon.com/themanapool and sign up to become a lifeguard. You can get the odds and ends, which are getting caught up. I'm up to July now. And early stuff and the sponsorship shout out like this. Thank you to Al, Kim Maho, Scuzzo, John Parker, Jake Ansons, Beardy Man, Tim Uhellas Haru, PJ McMullen, The Beast Father Aaron Goodwine, Jason Kaus, Andrew Hunt, Aleph Cat, Cody Buckowing, Casey, Jeff Spencer, Gothic Man, Jason Doan, Mr. Dr. Lewis, Connor Kennedy, and ALK Alters. Also, you might see some changes. Well, very soon I'm going to shut down my personal Facebook account because Facebook is a wretched hive of scum and villainy. And other than using Messenger to keep track of a few people and like talk to people, I don't use Facebook for anything other than getting mad. So why would I do that anymore? But if I kill my Facebook page, that means the Manapool Facebook page is going to die. Which all it is at this point is just auto posts when new videos go up. So I don't think there's any great loss there. But if you don't follow me on Twitter or join the Discord, you might want to do one of those, or just subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the Twitch page so you'll always know when stuff is going up, or subscribe to the RSS feed. Also, you might notice the RSS feed for the Manapool podcast now has all episodes instead of just the final, the most recent 100. That's a setting that's been there all this time, and I never knew it. Just buried in a page that I'd never seen before, there was a setting you could change, and I went, "Oh, look at that!" Also, I'm pretty sure I'm going to kill themanapool.com because it's kind of superfluous at this point. it's just extra work every week to put the post for the podcast up, and it hardly gets any traffic. And we don't get comments there anymore. And it's just kind of dumb. So what I'm probably going to do is make like a Linktree page or something with all of the links on it and point the manapool.com at that. Mm-hmm. And that'll be that, because the extra the extra work every week just isn't worth it. Let's see. Is that everything? No more website. RSS feed's full. And no more Facebook page. So yeah, the links to Twitter. Twitter is at the Manapool, of course. The link to the Discord is down in the description. So you can always check it out. And what else? Oh, thank you, Pinball. Yes, I will also. I've recently become able to stream old video games, like retro as hell video games. So I'm gonna start doing that on Twitch too. Yay! It's gonna be awesome.
Yay!
But also, let's see what's going on the content right now. We got Shovel Knight videos going up. We've got one more Shovel Knight stream to do. I'm working on the second Doom video. Those take a long time because I still haven't gotten my head wrapped around how to quickly do the highlight reel thing. And I'll be playing Doom 2 very soon. I've been playing some Slay the Spire. I've actually got a Slay the Spire video going up tomorrow. I have learned magically how to play Slay the Spire properly, and so that's been fun. And I've been playing Hades still, because it's a brilliant game and you should play it on stream here too. I'm up to, I think the last run I did was actually my 69th run. I admire my co-host's self-control to not go nice immediately. And
nice. It was delayed.
And apparently my clear percentage is really high. I'm at like 40 some clears out of 69, and Pinball witched us through 69 bits and said, nice, thank you, Pinball. So that's fun. There's a brand new retro gaming channel in the Discord, by the way, for you to throw out ideas for games that you want me to stream, or just to discuss old games. Because why not? I feel like I'm missing something. Oh yeah, we do the watch party every Saturday. Not this Saturday, but most Saturdays. If you have Twitch Prime or Amazon Prime, then you have Twitch Prime, then you should come join us Saturday nights. We usually watch 2 movies, me and Steph. And yeah, like last week we watched Coming to America and Coming to America, the sequel, which was way better than it had any right to be. Damn it. Like it was good. But okay, so with that, I will be done, which means we'll wrap this episode up. And really, did you have to ask what my boss music would be? It would be, and those of you listening in audio form are probably hearing it right now, or will be in a second, Diamond by Swift.
Of course.
Which has been my theme song for 13 years now. Actually, no, that's not true. I don't remember when I decided to just stick with one opening theme, but Magnor could tell us. He's probably got it in a spreadsheet somewhere. But it's been my theme song for a very long time now, and I really need to add it to my shower playlist on YouTube as well. To get properly pumped up in the morning when I'm naked. So this has been episode 615 of the Mana Pool. Thank you all so very much for joining us, and go music jam.